You signed it when you were 17, maybe 18. There was a form and a number on it that didn't feel like real money yet, because no number does at that age. Someone older slid it across a desk and told you it was the responsible thing, the smart thing, the thing everyone does. You signed. You didn't read it. Nobody your age reads it. And here's what nobody told you in that room. You just agreed to the one kind of debt in America that follows you past every failure, every illness, every rock bottom, and is still standing there when you get up. You'd assume that isn't right, that if things got bad enough, lost the job, lost the house bad, there's a floor. A legal bottom where someone says, this person cannot pay, wipe the slate, let them start again. That's bankruptcy. The oldest mercy in money. Even the Constitution has a line about it. That floor exists for almost every debt you can name. It does not exist for the loan you signed at 17. So how did one kind of debt get carved out of the oldest safety net in the country? Hold that. Because the answer isn't one villain. It's 40 years of small, quiet edits to a single sentence. Before 1976, a student loan was just a debt. If you went bankrupt, it went into the pile with everything else, and the pile got wiped. Same as a car loan or a credit card. And here's the detail that should stop you. Almost nobody was actually doing it. By 1977, only 0.3% of student loans had ever been discharged in bankruptcy. Not 3%, 0.3%. There was no crisis. But there was a story. The newly minted doctor, degree in hand, big salary coming, ducking into bankruptcy to wipe out loans he could easily afford. It almost never happened. It just had to be imaginable. And on the strength of that image, Congress made the first cut. Written into the Bankruptcy Code in 1978 in a line called Section 523. Federal student loans could no longer be discharged in the first 5 years, unless you could prove something called undue hardship. Remember that phrase. It becomes the whole story. But notice how modest this was. 5 years. After that, the loan behaved like any other debt again. There was still a floor, just further away. Then the edits kept coming. 1990, 5 years, quietly became 7. 1998, slow down here. Congress removed the waiting period entirely, not extended it, removed it. For a federal loan, undue hardship was now the only door out, for the life of the loan. Then, 2005, the last wall falls. A law extended that same treatment to private loans too. The ones from banks, with no government backing at all, sealed off the same way. So in one working lifetime, a normal debt became the hardest debt in America to escape, not through one dramatic law, through 4 small ones, each reasonable on its own. But a locked door still has a key. The key was that phrase, undue hardship. And here's where it gets stranger. Congress never said what those 2 words meant. They wrote the exception and walked away. What the courts built in that empty space became a wall higher than the law itself. In 1987, a case called Brunner set the standard most of the country still uses. Marie Brunner had filed less than a year after leaving school, before she'd really tried to repay, and the test was shaped to stop exactly that. It asks 3 things. Can you keep a minimal standard of living if forced to repay? Will your situation stay that bad for most of the loan's life? Have you made a good faith effort already? Prove all 3. Miss one, the door stays shut. That sounds survivable, until you see the middle one. To prove your situation would persist, many courts demanded what they openly called a certainty of hopelessness. A judge wrote those words, not a poet. You had to prove not that things were bad, but that they could essentially never get better. The law professor Rafael Pardo spent years documenting who tried. The standard became so severe, so unpredictable, that most borrowers never attempted it. Their own lawyers told them not to bother. It became common wisdom, even among attorneys, that student loans simply cannot be discharged, which was never technically true, and may as well have been. A door everyone believes is locked doesn't need a lock anymore. Here's the twist. You've been thinking of this as a debt problem. It's a design problem, and the design works perfectly, just not for you. What makes a lender careful is the chance of not being paid back. That fear is what makes them check whether you can afford it, whether the degree is worth the price. Bankruptcy is what creates that fear. It's the lender's skin in the game. Take bankruptcy off the table, and you remove their reason to ever say no. That's the whole machine. When a loan can't be discharged, the lender doesn't have to care whether you can repay. They'll be paid either way, one garnished paycheck at a time. So the money flows freely to an 18-year-old with no income, for any degree, at any price. Because from their side, there's no such thing as a bad bet anymore. The impossibility of escape isn't a side effect, it's the fuel. So the 17-year-old at the desk looks different now. They weren't handed a loan because someone decided they were a good risk. They were handed one because the law had guaranteed that being a bad risk no longer mattered. The safety net wasn't removed by accident. It was removed so the money could move without friction. And you were the friction. If you want to keep seeing the machinery under things you were told were just normal, just responsible, subscribe. That's the whole reason this channel exists. So, that form, you were 17. The number didn't feel real, and someone older told you it was the smart thing, the responsible thing, the thing everyone does. All of that was true. It was also the only debt in the country built so you could never take it back. And knowing this doesn't lower the number. Understanding how the door was welded shut does not open it. But there's a difference between being trapped and told it was your fault. You didn't fail to read the fine print. The fine print was rewritten, one word at a time, over 40 years, by people who were never in the room with you. You signed it when you were 17. You just didn't know you were signing the one thing you'd never be allowed to put down. Keep looking closer.